Well, people love coffee, but it is getting harder to produce and more expensive to buy.
Yeah, meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees breaks down how increased warming plays a factor.
More than 2 billion cups of coffee are consumed per day, with approximately 2/3 of adults in the United States indulging. While there are multiple contributing factors to why it's getting pricier, at least one of them is higher heat in coffee growing regions. Dr. Christina Dahl is the Vice President for Science at Climate Central, which just completed an analysis on coffee harming heat over the last 5 years. Dahl says every major coffee growing country is experiencing more coffee harming days.
And when we look at the top 5 producers, on average, they're experiencing about an additional 2 months worth of days where the temperatures are hotter than coffee's optimal range.
The top 5 producers of coffee globally are Brazil, Vietnam, Colombia, Indonesia, and Ethiopia. In the U.S., there are very few places coffee can be grown. Dahl says Hawaii can support coffee production, and there are experimental growers in California.
Both climate change and coffee really highlight just how globalized our world is and how much we depend on each other. What happens in coffee growing countries affects us. Our emissions affect the climate of the coffee growing countries. It's all connected.
The coffee industry is dominated by 2 different species of coffee, Arabica and Robusta. Most of what we drink in the United States is Arabica. Dahl says there are still things we can do to slow down warming across the globe, as well as ways to better adapt.
Doing things like planting shade trees in and amongst the coffee trees can help to shield them from kind of the hottest, most intense hours of the day in the sunshine. With the combination of reducing fossil fuel use and improving some of the growing practices would help to mitigate the effects of climate change on coffee production.
While higher heat was the biggest contributor to this particular study and analysis, large swings in dry and wet patterns also can impact coffee production. I felt like when I got this pitch from some of my sources at Climate Central, I just thought about our newsroom and the fact that people who work in our industry, my sister, I feel like I say this all the time, she's a labor and delivery nurse, like those people who work the weird hours.
We need the coffee.
Are the most impacted by this. So I wanted to do it just because I thought it was really interesting.
It is interesting. And Hawaii is still good though.
Yeah, so because of the fact that, and I didn't get to put it in the story because it took a little bit longer, it's not just the high heat, it's also like the low temperature. So they need a very small range. What similar, I feel like we would consider like somewhere like Hawaii, maybe even Florida. Right now, Florida's a little bit too humid, but they did say that there are places along maybe the Gulf Coast that could eventually grow it. The issue is though, having to move it, or like whether it's in the country, like say on a mountaintop where it's cooler, think about like when we had to replant all of those Christmas trees after Helene. It can take years, sometimes
generation,
decades, like to start the production. So it's not just like a problem that can be solved like that. So.